Hello, this is Miguel Cardona, President CEO of Cardona Solutions, with our first ever Conversations with Cardona, where we just get into a real conversation with folks from all over the country on leadership, on supporting students. And I'm honored today to have our first show have the great Colin Kaepernick. You know him as a quarterback, NFL quarterback, top tier athlete. You know him as someone who stood on principle. And you're going to get to know him a little bit more today. I'll get into that in the interview, but Colin, thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good to be with you. So you've been kind of busy, man. You're on my feed. I'm like, all right, this guy, you're traveling, you're getting out there and you're being called, and that's a great thing. But let me take a step back and talk about leadership. I mean, you know, those who are watching and listening watched you, they saw you on the field, saw your leadership there. What does leadership mean to you?
I mean, leadership it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to do anything at scale and have people follow you, you have to be able to lead.
Yeah.
And when I think about leadership and why it's so important, fundamentally, it comes down to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like how you interact and engage with people. How do you bring the best out of them?
Yeah.
How you get them excited about the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And also push them to accomplish things they didn't think they were capable of.
Right.
And I think those are the parts of leadership that I get excited about, because you get to see the challenges, and you can see a lot of those challenges crumble and dissipate over time.
Right.
And that's exciting because that's progress. We're moving forward.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, there's great things for us.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because you're talking about that, and I'm thinking about the work you had to do in the huddle to get a team to believe that they could do certain things, right? Or to get players to exceed the expectations that they have on themselves. Maybe you want more. But it's like that in education leadership too, where, you know, superintendents or school principals or teacher leaders, they got a group of people that they have to motivate. You know, teachers are motivating students to exceed expectations. I see that parallel. Do you see it now that you're dipping into education too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to your point, it shows up in different layers within education. And thinking about that huddle, like when you're dealing with district leaders, you are dealing with the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that holds true from my time being on the field, is when you are working with people that are highly driven, highly motivated, like they love winning and being successful. Like you have to show up a certain way for them.
Yeah.
And most of them immediately will know, like, oh, you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Like you can sense it when you walk into a room.
So you have a playbook? So when you're meeting with superintendent, you have a specific playbook?
At this point, it's just part of.
I'm just messing with you, man.
That's just part of who I am.
You can read a room though. You can read.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Because the other part you realize is because personalities vary.
Yeah.
People need different things.
Yeah.
So for us, we have. I'll correlate this to some of the engagements on the field. We had some players that was like, give me the blunt truth, to be straight. Like, I'll take it, I'll run with it, and that's what I need. Other players need a little more feeling, a little more connection, a little more motivation in the process. And there's others that are like, hey, I get what you're saying here, but I need to understand the why on all levels, and that explained to me. So being able to meet people where they're at with what they need, like that becomes such a critical skill in leadership. And it shows up in education because you're dealing with, I think the part that I did not fully appreciate until diving all the way into education is the number of stakeholders that you are managing at any given moment. Yeah. Like you're managing your own administration, you're managing all your site leaders, you're managing the board, you're managing parents and those interactions. You're obviously engaged with your students. And those are all very different people you have to serve and lead that all need different things from you. Yeah. So thinking about that huddle, very similar in that way, like the personalities and the demands there and their responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Like my linemen are different than my receivers, are different than my running back, are different than our defensive players. Like they all need something different and you have to show up for them.
And we know on the field, the receivers are usually the ones that want the most attention. I'm not going to ask you who in education. I'm not going to ask you that. But you know, there's a line that I refer to often. I heard someone else say it, and I think there's a reference in the Bible. Keep your oath even when it hurts. Now, you know, people might know your story and know how you stood up. I mean, you stood on principle. When I think of you, I think of, you know, someone who kept their oath even when it hurt. How do you connect that to you, to your lived story, your life story, to your professional story, and to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah. I love that. And that also ties back into leadership. Like no one thinks all of the historic leaders that we know, it was never in time of convenience.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to lead what is easy. When things get hard, that's when it's like you actually see who the leaders are. And for me, when I think about that, it ties into purpose. It ties into morality. It ties into integrity. It also ties into your character. Like, who are you as a person? And for me in those moments, like, those should be the moments that we are most excited about.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this is the eternal optimist in me, is like, what a phenomenal opportunity when things are hard that people look to you. Because the counter to that could be like, yeah, I've never trusted that person. Like, I don't want to call them. And for me, I think that, yes, there's sacrifice that comes with it. But the opportunity to impact people's lives in a positive way and what that ripple effect causes, like, that is something that gets me excited.
Yeah.
And I'll say those moments that are difficult, like I go back to purpose. Like, why am I doing this? And some of that showed up early morning training sessions. That's like 4:30 a.m. I'm getting up and I'm still training, trying to get back in the NFL. Why did I start down this path? What am I trying to accomplish? And what is the impact of being successful in this? Like thinking about what the goal you're trying to accomplish is. Those become the things that help get you through those difficult moments.
Right.
And you also get to meet other people who have those similar goals, and you get to build together. So I built some of my best relationships and best friendships in those difficult moments, because those are also the moments you get to see who people truly are.
Yeah, that's powerful. And you know, your experience, you talked about purpose, and I really, you know, I started noticing that you were getting into the education space, and I got curious, and we had an opportunity to engage, and I see that you're taking that purpose for equity and making sure people reach their God-given potential from the field to the classroom. So I started, you know, trying to figure out, well, what is this Lumi story? What is Lumi story AI? And it seems to me that some of that same passion that you had on the field and what you stood for when you stood is now evident in the work that you're doing in education. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about the impact and purpose of what I want to accomplish, ultimately, we want to see people thriving and succeeding.
Yeah.
We want to see communities being successful. I also think back to my own journey. Like, I was a straight A student through high school. I graduated with a 4.5. But part of what I realized is some of that drive and motivation was tied to an additional goal. I was like, I want to make it to the college level to play sports. I know my academics can help differentiate me from other athletes. Now, when I think about that for a lot of our students, they may not have that, but they may have something else that they're looking to tie that to. And think about this within education is like, how do we build that excitement for our students that helps us get them to accomplish the goals that are going to set them up for the rest of their lives? Like the skills that they are learning, most of our students aren't going to be college graduates. Like that's what numbers say. But that doesn't mean they can't go out and be extremely successful in life.
Right.
And a lot of those skills, all of the students, whether they're college graduates or not, they're going to learn that within their schools. And that's going to be the primary area where they build that skill set. So for me, when I think about impact that we can have on communities, and what that looks like over generations, like what better place to start than within schools and with our kids? And Frederick Douglass has a great quote around this, and this may not be perfect, but basically the sentiment is it's easier to build strong children than it is to fix broken men.
Yep.
And when we think about our education system in our schools, like that is the opportunity in front of us.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to build our leaders of the future, and that opportunity is sitting there for us today.
Yeah. You know, I've seen a lot of celebrities and a lot of people that have reached high levels dip into education, whether it's a foundation or they have this thing, but you are knee deep in it. No, really, I like you're committed. You know, you're trying to say, look, we need to engage students better. We need to make sure that literacy is not something that they're afraid of, but they're excited about writing. And we need to make sure that we're taking advantage of AI to give students motivation to have them learn how to write or create in a way that's consistent with what they're seeing on their screens when they're not in school.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a father, I want to make sure what I'm putting in front of my kids is safe, number one.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure my kids are engaged, right? And I'm finding that, you know, Lumi's story is engaging students in writing because they're creating avatars much like they would on NBA 2K or on Madden. And they see themselves in their stories. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So with Lumi's Story AI, like one of the key things we focus on, we have to drive student engagement.
Yeah.
If our students aren't engaged, they're not going to learn.
Right.
Part of the disengagement that we have heard from students as well as teachers is students don't see themselves in the work. Like, why is this relevant to me?
Yeah.
Why should I care?
Right.
When you give them ownership and agency in the process, you say, you know what? I hear you. You get to sit in the driver's seat and you tell us what you would create. And it's all going to relate back to the curriculum within the classroom, but you get to drive. And students engage in ways that we just haven't seen before. Yeah. And the part that's exciting about that, now we can get into the writing skills. Now we can get into literacy. Now we can get into the AI skills because now we have students bought in. Like, I'm not being forced to do this. I'm doing it because I'm excited about it. Right. And that's ultimately what we want. We want that agency in our students. And then when we get to the literacy piece, part of the reason literacy is so important is obviously beyond being able to read, like getting our students to write directly ties to reading comprehension. When we think about what their long-term careers look like, building those early literacy skills are incredibly important. Right. The other part that we found is when we look at literacy within our school districts today, or I should say most of our school districts, we see it heavily K through 3. When we get to grades 4 and beyond, it doesn't really show up as much. Also, most of our teachers haven't been trained on writing specifically. Right. So that becomes an opportunity where we can help bridge that gap for our teachers. And this is where AI is really valuable. Yeah. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but we can help you bridge those gaps and give you insights. And we help make you better in the process. You better understand your students. You can make them better. And we can support everyone through it. Now, what comes out the other side of that? We have districts that we visited that 100% of students have said, hey, Lumi's made me a better writer in the process. We have districts saying, hey, our students are more engaged. Like, we just haven't seen this. Yeah. And then the last part of that is we're also getting them to understand AI in this process, which when we think about future-ready skills, when we think about, and I also slightly hesitate to even say future-ready skills because it is right now. Yeah. Like, it has changed our own hiring plans, hiring profiles. Yeah. We're seeing this across industries. Yeah. So our students have to have these skills to set them up for success. And if we're able to accomplish all of those and make our teachers better, our districts better, And again, all of this still aligning to the curriculum,
Yeah.
our standards. Like, what a win.
Yeah.
So we look at that as like, how do we serve everyone that we're supposed to? Like, that's what we're looking to accomplish, and we're seeing great things happening.
It seems like you're using AI as a tool to accelerate learning and writing, not AI as the end all, right? It's a tool to enhance it. One of the things that I saw was students creating their own characters that look like them, or putting like their parents in their stories, which make them motivated to want to write, right? So now the story is something they want to share because they're creating their own like avatars. It's really an interesting way to use AI to motivate students to write, you know. And what's your best example of a story you heard or you saw a student do?
So we've seen it show a few ways. So one that stands out to me, because we actually saw this cross-curricular.
Okay.
We saw a student do a story for his ELA class, but he actually pulled learnings from his biology class and integrated those in his story. So he created a narrative around an inventor. And this inventor created a magic fork. Now, his story was all centered around food, family, community. But the magic fork allowed him to transport to different times, different places. Now, the story was incredible. What was more incredible was what the student shared with us after the fact. That magic fork represented his mother.
Wow.
He also shared his mother had died 5 years earlier. Now, in this instance, his classmates didn't know that. His teacher didn't know that. Principal didn't know that. This is the first time this student opened up and shared that with anyone around them. So even when we think about social emotional learning and connection with our students are also navigating a lot. And we're seeing that show up in a project that was an ELA project and accomplishing the goals there. We're also seeing the student pull in biology. We're seeing them pull in personal insights, sharing personal narratives and experiences. And that was his way of going through that grieving process. Now, the part that's interesting, one of the things he shared was one of the reasons he opened up, he didn't feel like he was going to be judged in that process because he was going back and forth with AI, asking questions to help frame the story. Now, when we think about what our students are navigating, if we can get them to a place where they don't feel like they're being judged, we see them open up. But that's also building stronger connections in the classroom. So now my teacher better understands me. In this instance, hey, we're doing a Mother's Day project now. And this student's disengaged. Well, I now have an insight into why that's the case. So it's opening doors of real world communication. Again, to your point, AI is a tool in the process.
And it connects the students.
It connects the students. And it's allowing them to ask questions when we know our teachers can't answer every question of every student within the classroom. So we use inquiry-based approach. So as our students are asking, it always ties back to the lesson plan. It always ties back to the curriculum. But they can ask those questions in real time when they get stuck.
Love it.
And we see stories like that come to life.
So if you're watching this now and you're like, this must be an AI video because you got Colin Kaepernick talking about standards, agency, alignment. No, this is the real deal. This is Colin Kaepernick. You know, look, top tier athlete, committed 100%. Now he's taken that into education. This is why I want to sit down with you, man. This is why, and I told you this, it's not about, it's cool, man, what you did on the field and what you stood up for, but I love the fact that you're taking all your passion, your top level training, commitment, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, being that the one that wants to exceed, and now you're translating into education to help students. That your purpose went from the football field to standing on principle to now helping children across the country. I've been watching that, and I'm really impressed, which is why when you asked if I could just serve on your board, I said I'd be happy to. I'll get to know Lumi's story in a little bit, but I like the person and the passion that you have. I'm really proud of what you're doing. Count on my support, count on Cardona Solutions support, because I really believe that what you're doing is you're taking your passion and you're bringing it into education space to help kids. I love how you're promoting literacy. I love how you're promoting safe use of artificial intelligence. I love how you're talking about engaging students in ways that they weren't engaged, bringing their stories to life. And as a father of teenagers during COVID, and I remember how my kids were creating avatars on their games, it connected them to the game and the community in the game. You're doing that with your product. The product is good, but the passion is what gets me connected here. So, as we wrap up, I'm going to try to wrap this up because I still have hope that he's going to throw some passes to me in the parking lot of this school that we're visiting. I'd love if you could just look at the camera and send a message to leaders. And when I say leaders, I don't mean people with specific letters after their name or titles in front of them. The people that are in education right now who know it's a tough time to lead.
Yeah.
It's a tough time to serve when public education is under attack. When you say the wrong word at a meeting and you're gonna get questioned, or where people have to scrub their curricular materials so that they don't get negative attention. It's a tough time to lead, but it's the most important time to lead in this country. So look at the camera, talk directly to those leaders, and tell them why this is the best time you lead.
Yeah. To all of our school leaders out there, all of our leaders within education, and all of our parents who are leaders and leading the education within their home. This is a difficult time. The circumstances are tough. But that is also when leadership shows up. And we have a phenomenal opportunity in front of us to be able to show who we are as a people, to be able to show what matters most and what we are willing to do to accomplish those goals for our children, for our students. And I'm excited to be able to do that work with all of you, to do that in partnership with you. And I know what will come out the other side of this is going to be our students leading the world, leading our communities, leading our families to a better place, a more successful place. And I'm very excited to be on that journey with all of you and know that I'll be right there with you as we are accomplishing those goals together.
That's awesome. And, my message is, this is the first installment of Conversations with Cardona, and Cardona Solutions. The goal for me now is to really bring light to the amazing things that are happening in our schools, in our classrooms across the country. Like Colin, the position changes, but the passion and purpose doesn't. So look to these to be inspired, but also to learn about what's happening in our education system. Because at the end of the day, we are who we need. The students that are in our classrooms right now, they don't get a redo in this grade. So we have to show up every day. We got to support one another. We got to lift each other up. And we got to believe, like Colin believes, that the best days are still ahead of us. We serve students, and we're blessed to be in a position of service to our students. So let's lock arms. Let's make sure we're keeping students at the center, and let's keep fighting. Colin, thank you for your time, man.
Thank you. And thank you for your leadership as well. We're grateful for it. We appreciate it. Yeah. And very excited to be on this journey together.
We're not done.
Yes, just getting started.
That's it. Thank you.